Hello, hello, Elia.
Hi.
Oh,
I see Warren Ferreira joined the live. Thank you, Warren, for joining. We will wait for a
okay.
few people to come on.
Wow. How you doing?
Hi, everyone. So we're just going to wait for a few people to join. Let us wait, let us wait, let us wait. It's been 2 minutes. Warren, must I talk to you? Because I see that you are the only one that's on this live now. You're kidding. Hello, hello, hello. I see Kelsey has joined. Hello, Warren. I see Sister Eva's here. Welcome, Sister Eva. We will just wait for the others to join. Everyone can get their nice cup of coffee because it is so cold. Hi, Sister Eva. Thank you so much for joining. Halsey is here. I think I saw Vina as well. Welcome, Vina. Welcome, Luigi. Pastor Cindy is also here. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Welcome, Tiffany. Welcome, Tiff. Thank you, Alvina. I think we should most probably get started. I think we have enough people on the live to start our live this evening. And we are going to speak about you being your first follower. Did you know that you are your first follower? And I think my title for today's topic really just came from Pastor Marco's talk on leadership last week. And, I had to go and do some reflection and I had to think about what was spoken about. And, the truth came about who's following you, who is following you. And guess what? Guess what? You are actually your first follower. You are your first follower. I know everyone's wondering what's up with that title, but I'll explain a little bit what it is all about. And the reason why I'm saying that you are your first follower is because leadership starts with you. It doesn't start with others following you. It actually starts with you. In order to become a leader, you need to be able to lead yourself first. You need to be able to lead yourself first. And I think that is something that John Maxwell also speaks about when he says you can't lead anyone until you have first led yourself. And that is really what I was pondering on after Pastor Marco's talk last week on leadership. Who is following me? And if I want people to follow me, what do I do then? And one of the most important things is self leadership, that you first need to master leading yourself before you can actually lead others. And this is what the definition for self leadership is. It says that self leadership is the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking, feeling, and actions to reach your objectives. I'll repeat it quickly. It is the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking, feeling, and action to reach your objectives. And that basically speaks even about how you respond to certain situations, to certain difficulties. And that will then speak of whether you are the leader of your life, because so many times we come up with excuses, we come up with reasons as to why we cannot reach up our objectives, or why we don't have a vision for our lives, or why we have not accomplished certain things. But it's really just because we have not mastered the skill of self leadership. And I am studying right now, and everyone knows that I'm busy with studying law. So we covered the Constitution recently. In fact, I had to present on the Constitution recently. And one of the things that we covered in the Constitution was obviously the transition from from apartheid to the democracy. And what we saw during that time is Nelson Mandela actually leading us into democracy. But one of the things that we understand, even about great leaders like Nelson Mandela, is that he needed to master the art of self leadership first. Because when he found himself in prison for 27 years during a very difficult time, obviously being in prison for something that he was not really even guilty about, being in that small cell, working hard every day, being so far away from his family, he needed to actually develop certain disciplines. And what he did during that time was he went on to study. He actually studied while he was in prison as well. He even started learning Afrikaans so that he could speak the language of the oppressor. There's certain things that he did during this difficult time of his life to actually prepare him for where he was going. So, as people, we need to learn how to actually develop certain skills to lead ourselves during difficult times in our lives. And we see then with all that preparation that he did while he was in prison, when he was released in 1990, he became part of the negotiations for the new South Africa. He became part of the Codesa negotiations, where we know that the post apartheid or the apartheid government, FW de Klerk, had these talks and they were negotiating for the new South Africa, and they were able to then put the interim constitution in place. And he then led us through the transition of apartheid to now democracy. But we understand that if Nelson Mandela was not capable of leading himself through that process of being in prison and actually then coming out not a bitter person, but a better person, where he needed to learn to actually also forgive people so that he could be able to do what he needed to do for his people. And this is actually what he said. He said that he had to leave hatred and bitterness behind because otherwise it would still be in prison. And even though it would not have been a prison cell, it would be him imprisoning himself mentally. So he understood those things, and because he was able to transition smoothly from being in prison, he was able to then transition a nation into freedom. So, do you understand how important it is to actually lead yourself? Because by leading yourself first, you will then be able to lead others. And we see this in the example of Nelson Mandela. When he was able to transition smoothly out of prison himself, he then was able to then lead us into freedom and lead us into being a democratic country. It was a smooth transition then even for South Africa from the old constitution to the new constitution that was then implemented in 1996, the final constitution. And that is why self leadership is so important. If we do not master the art of leading ourselves first, then we won't be able to lead others. But there are certain things that we need to do or that we need to possess in order to be able to lead ourselves. And one of the things that we need to do is we need to be self aware. So we need to have some sort of self awareness in order to be able to lead ourselves. So we need to understand what is our values, what are our strengths, what is my weaknesses, and then also what triggers me. And understanding that will then bring awareness to oneself. And we need to then be emotionally intelligent, because self awareness also speaks about emotional intelligence. So we know how to control our feelings, when to respond, when not to respond. And we know then why do we feel certain ways. And when we understand our emotions, we are then able to better respond in situations. And I know that some of you will sit here and you'll be like, how do I do that? What do I do to become a little bit more self aware? And I think a lot of people do say that journaling helps with that. So if you are maybe not somebody that is able to express yourself right now, you can then start by journaling your thoughts and journaling your feelings. And when things happen, then just pull up your book, or at the end of the day, each day, make time to journal how you felt today, and maybe when situations arose, how did you respond to that situations. And obviously that will bring awareness to you of who you really are. I know Pastor Marco always said that he gave us a tip once, and he said, just record yourself for a day. Put a speaker on or record yourself somewhere and listen to what you say, and that will reveal certain things to you about you. Pastor Marcos also recommending a personality test, maybe. Yes, I know that some time ago we also did the personality test. I know Pastor Marco might have the link for that, where you can go on and you can do a personality test, and that will explain exactly to you who you are. It will explain to you about your emotions, whether you're an introvert, an extrovert. So do that personality test. I think it will really, really help. And Pastor Marcus says he has the link, so he will be able to share that with you. And then also having a purpose and having a vision for your life also helps. So you need to understand why. Why am I here? Where am I going? I think it's Simon Sinek that speaks about start with the why. So you need to have an understanding of where you are going and why you are here. And that will then also help you to lead yourself into where you need to be. And you can start by simply doing a vision board. I know that is something that we are very strict on at Innovation Church. Every beginning of the year, the pastors get us together and they like write down your vision board and even have a life plan. We were even taught about having a life plan, not just as far as what you're doing this year, but what is your life plan. And that then also helps you to lead yourself into reaching your objectives and reaching your goals. Um, then accountability. I know we're covering the accountability series. Accountability is very, very important if you want to lead yourself. You need to be able to own up to your mistakes. You need to be able to take responsibility for your own growth. You cannot wait for somebody else to tell you what you need to do with your life. You need to own up and you need to take responsibility for your own growth. And when you do make mistakes, you need to be able to acknowledge it, so you don't need to blame people for making mistakes or for not reaching your goals or for not being where you want to be. You are the one that needs to own up and say that maybe I've done this wrong, or maybe I've strayed away from where I need to be, and I need to come back to it. And in terms of your growth, you can't say that this one is keeping me behind. We heard even in the sermons how Pastor Marco was preaching, and he said, you can't even blame your spouse for not reaching your purpose. You can't blame anyone for not reaching your purpose. You are the only one that is responsible to make sure that you reach your purpose, that you live life on purpose. So, accountability is big when it comes to leading yourself. So, just to recap on that, self awareness, very important. Do that personality test. Have a plan for your life. Make sure that you do have a vision board, a life plan, and then also make sure that you take accountability. When you see that things are not going well, instead of blaming others and looking to find fault in others or blaming your surroundings, or circumstances, or making excuses because this is going wrong and that is going wrong. No, you need to own up to your mistakes and you need to take responsibility for your growth no matter what the circumstances are. And sometimes what helps us with accountability is finding obviously accountability partners, and they will then help us to keep on track. I think Pastor Marcos says Jesus won't be accepting that excuse. And we know that we have learned also in innovation that accountability partners are not those that are always cheering you on and tapping you on your back and saying, well done, but it is those that can actually point out your mistakes and your faults and say to you that you need to work on A, B, C, and D. So we should not just keep people around that will just motivate us and that will just comfort us and that will just encourage us. It must be people that will also be able to say, pull up your socks. You can do better. Um, so we need to have those people in our lives as well. Those people that are a little bit stern and that don't take nonsense from us, right? Um, and then you obviously need to work on this daily. I think one of the mistakes that we make is that we think that reaching our goals or doing what we need to do is like something that should be done in the future. But we actually need to take small steps every day so that we can develop certain disciplines over a time period. And you can decide what you want to do daily, every single day. And I want to maybe encourage you to start having conversations with yourself, because we're so good at interacting with others, but we take very little time to spend time with ourselves and to reach inside within and find the things that we need to work on. So even if you take a few minutes every day and you say to yourself, this is what I'm going to do today to work towards this goal. So obviously, once you have your plan, once you have identified the things that you need to work on, and I mean everybody, like the pastors always say, everyone has their goetertjies. Nobody's perfect. You can identify what are those things that are keeping you from not reaching your goals, from not moving forward, from not growing, and you can then work on those things daily. You can set time aside every day and you can then say, this is what I'm going to do to improve on this. So if you know that you procrastinate, you can then make sure that when you are given a task, instead of waiting for the last minute, you can assign maybe 5, 10 minutes every day to make sure that that task gets done. And whatever it is that you need to work on, um even in the instance of leadership, like I said in the beginning, who's following you. And we also have to ask the difficult question then, will people want to follow me? um if I was a follower, would I follow myself? And so you can then rewrite that, and you can then say, okay, so this is the type of leader that I want to be. And every day you can say, today I want to be this type of leader, and you can work towards becoming that type of leader that you want to be. Um, so that is what you need to do. Let us do some practical things daily that will get us to becoming the leader that we want to be. And I know Pastor Marcus said that leadership is a choice. So we need to make that choice daily then, that I will lead myself so that I can build credibility, so that others will then follow me. Because one of the things that we always also hear is that leadership is not taught, it's caught. So the minute that we start leading our own lives, guess what? People will begin to follow us. So that's why we need to make that decision every single day, that I'm going to be a leader. This is the type of leader that I will be. And once people begin to see that, they will be able then to follow us, and we will then also be equipped to lead them as well. But I'm not going to keep everyone very long this evening, because I know I started a little long, but a little late. So I just want to keep you here until 9 o'clock. But I think that is what I took away from last week's talk on leadership. And I just wanted to share some of the points that I took away, or the self reflection that I had to do, and the things that I decided that this is what I will do in order to become a leader that others want to follow. So remember, just to recap, self awareness, self discipline, and then you need to have purpose and vision. You need to be accountable for your actions. And then you also need to model the behavior that you want to see. So you need to go and write the type of leader that you want to be based on the person that you will follow. So become the leader that you would follow. Um, and do some practical things daily to ensure that you become that which you want to be. Because the only way that we will become good leaders is if we begin to lead ourselves. So, self leadership, very, very important. I don't know if anyone wants to add to that. I will open up to anyone that wants to say something this evening. Um, Thank you, Lucius, for joining. Thank you, Sister Eva. I see my mom-in-law is also here. She's saying that you need to decide to be a leader. Um, the personality test is very good, Pastor Cindy says. So please make time to do the personality test. I will see if I can also send that link, or Pastor Marco will send it. Pastor Cindy says I look like a talk show host, and I love my talk shows, Pastor Cindy. So hopefully one day that will also be something that I'm able to do. But that is what I wanted to share quickly with you guys this evening. Let us become leaders of our own lives. And when we are leaders of our own lives, we will then be able to lead others. And I think that is it for this evening. If no one else wants to say anything, then I'm going to release everyone, because it's very cold this evening. We need to go and chill now. Pastor Cindy saying hello, Gian. Hello. So thank you so much, each and everyone, for joining this evening. I hope that you have taken something away, and I hope that you will be able to apply it to your life. But thank you so much, and we will see you next week, Wednesday, with another podcast. See you
Bye.
guys. Bye bye.
North, yeah. Go, yeah.